Yeah, I think it's going all right. No, it's going all right. No, I suppose it's one of the pitfalls of management. Obviously, is when you're out of the game because you want to work, but you've got to appreciate. I've certainly learned appreciation over the last few years. I've been managing for 4 or 5 years now. The year at Everton, I was up close to here actually, away from the family a lot. Probably didn't realise until I came home what I'd missed because my boy was like a year of age at that point. My daughter's 3 or 4, now they're 5 and 2. And spending time with them has been a great thing for me. Because even when you're managing, you're present, but you're not so many times. Do you know what I mean? So I've really appreciated that. A few other bits outside that I've always done.
Chelsea legend and midfield maestro Frank Lampard. You know him for the goals, the trophies, but what about the off-pitch antics? Let's dig deep, because there's lots of dirt on Lampard. June 1978, London. Frank Lampard Jr. arrives on the scene in Romford, not with a silver rattle, but perhaps a tiny football tucked under his arm. Now, this lad wasn't born into just any family. Football was practically in their blood. His dad, Frank Lampard Sr., was a West Ham legend, his uncle Harry Redknapp a future manager, and his cousin Jamie Redknapp destined to become a midfield maestro himself. Talk about pressure! But young Frank? Not a single worry wrinkle on his brow. He practiced, honed his skills, you see. Though, believe it or not, he also aced an ace in Latin at Brentwood School. Brainy and blessed with fancy footwork, this lad was a bit of a conundrum, raining down goals from the midfield like a one-man thunderstorm and unleashing screamers from outside the box, 41 of them to be exact, a true danger man on the pitch. Now, stats don't tell the whole story, mind you. Just like his teammate John Terry, Frank wasn't everyone's cup of tea all the time. Let's just say he had his moments, shall we say. A bit of a pickle here and there. A bit of an understatement. He got into lots of trouble, like with his teammate John Terry. Here's where things get a bit messy, but before we get into the messy bits of Frank Lampard's story, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn notifications on. And now back to Lampard's upsets that we've all tuned in for. Now, in his autobiography, Totally Frank, Lampard comes across as a sensitive soul, deeply affected by 9/11. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? A horrific tragedy. But here's the twist. The day after, something doesn't quite add up. Chelsea's game gets postponed, the lads get a day off, a chance to reflect, you'd think. But not for young Frankie and his mates, John Terry, Jody Morris, Idor Goodjohnson, and even a Leicester player thrown in for good measure, Frank Sinclair. Imagine Kurt Zouma in a cat sanctuary, complete lack of awareness. That's the vibe we're getting. Off they go on a 12-hour bender, a pub crawl that would make Oliver Reed blush. Booze, bad behaviour, the works. Reports say they were stripping, swearing and vomiting their way through the suburbs, harassing patrons and generally causing a ruckus. And now on to Heathrow. They stumble into a Heathrow Airport hotel, a haven for stranded American tourists, folks still reeling from the attacks. Not exactly the most sensitive move, is it? Apparently, things escalated. We're talking flashing, harassment, the whole package. The manager called them utterly disgusting, and who can blame him? But wait, there's more. The lads, fueled by who knows what, head to a bowling alley next door and decide to slide headfirst down the lanes. Frank Sinclair nearly decapitated himself in the process. Darwin Award nominee right there. The inevitable happened. The story leaked, fines were dished out, and England caps were revoked. A right pickle indeed. And wouldn't you know it, this little episode came back to haunt Lampard years later when he signed for a New York team. Seems there's more to the story than that messy pub crawl, eh? Buckle up, because we're about to dive into a right kerfuffle that's as confusing as a dodgy kebab at 3 a.m. Back in the year 2000, Lampard, along with his mates Rio Ferdinand and Kieran Dyer, jetted off to Cyprus for a lad's holiday. Now, what happens on a lad's holiday stays on a lad's holiday, as the saying goes. But in this case, chaps, things went a bit south faster than a dodgy pasty. Apparently a video emerged, filmed during their jollies in the infamous Ayia Napa. Now the details are a bit blurry, like trying to remember who nicked your chips after a few too many pints down the pub. Let's just say it wasn't exactly your cup of tea and cucumber sandwiches, all right? This whole shenanigans turned into a courtroom circus. Rio Ferdinand, bless him, wasn't best pleased with how things were unfolding. So, he decided to take a stand, suing a couple of newspapers and even Channel 4. Seems Channel 4 dared to air a snippet of the video in a documentary they called, well, let's leave the name out of it, considering the context of the situation. We're better off calling it a cautionary tale. Ferdinand wasn't having a bar of it, claiming it was a right invasion of privacy, and made a mountain out of a molehill, especially when it came to his involvement. In the end, the lawyers sorted it all out. The video on Channel 4 became more blurred than a Scottish sheepdog in a fog, and Lampard and Dyer's part in the whole thing got downplayed more than a dodgy refereeing decision. We're not here to judge a bloke for his past mistakes, but let's just say this little episode wasn't exactly a shining example of how footballers should behave, was it? Remember Hélène Rivas, his gorgeous ex-fiancée? Well, their love story went belly up, leaving Ellen feeling well and truly lost. 7 years together, that's longer than some marriages, but then things turned sour. Hélène reckons Frank acted like a complete rotter, a heartless bloke who scarpered off and started seeing other birds. Imagine reaching out, pouring your heart out over text and phone calls, only to be met with radio silence. Not a peep from Frank, according to Ellen. Blimey, that's cold as a cucumber. Frank was apparently holed up in their old house, which he'd transformed into a bachelor pad fit for a king. Back in 2009, crying her eyes out in a nightclub, saying she still loved the man. Well, after all that drama, it seems our boy Frankie finally settled down. So, who is the lucky lady, you ask? None other than Christine Bleakley, a stunning Northern Irish broadcaster. They tied the knot on a crisp December day in 2015, and guess what?
What is it like, and now Christine's on the show, when you're sitting at home and you're watching her reveal personal stuff about how rubbish you are around the house and you don't have to fill a dishwasher?
Well, obviously I had my side of that, and...
Not long after, in September 2018, they welcomed a bouncing baby girl into the world. Or, bless their cotton socks. But wait, there's more. In March 2021, the happy couple announced the pitter-patter of tiny feet once again. A little Lampard lad to complete their family. Looks like Frank Lampard 2.0 is well and truly underway. Fast forward to April 2021. Lampard's cruising down Gloucester Road in his flashy Merc, a cuppa in one hand and something that suspiciously resembled a phone in the other. Now, this little multitasking feat wasn't exactly going unnoticed. A bloke on a bike, a self-proclaimed road warden named Mike van Erp, also known as Cycling Mikey to his online fans, filmed the whole thing. You can almost picture the look on Lampard's face when he clocked the cyclist. A proper oh dang it moment, I reckon. Not the best look for Lampard, was it? Things escalated a bit and it all ended up in court by January 2022. Lampard, with a right clever lawyer known as Mr. Loophole on his side, pleaded not guilty. But here's the kicker. The Crown Prosecution Service, the ones who decide if there's enough evidence to charge someone, decided to bin the whole thing. Well, you can imagine the uproar back in 2022. Cycling Mikey was livid, reckoning Lampard got off scot-free. He even spoke to some police officers who were grumbling about a backlog, causing them to chuck cases out left, right and centre. Now, the evidence was a bit dodgy, you see. The video showed Lampard holding the phone, but not necessarily using it. Blimey, the law can be a funny thing sometimes. Lampard walked free, but let's be honest, it wasn't exactly a stellar moment for our footballing hero, but going from drunken stupors and slur-filled rampages to holding a cup of joe and a phone while driving. We reckon it's progress? You be the judge of it. I think we've dug up a bit too much dirt on Frank. Let's not forget that Lampard was Chelsea's most adored football player, and for good reason too. Lampard wasn't just a goal machine, though. He patrolled the midfield like a box-to-box general, racking up an impressive 102 assists in the Premier League alone. That puts him fourth in the all-time assist rankings. Not bad for a guy known for his thunderous strikes. And the trophies? Well, let's just say his trophy cabinet must need serious reinforcements. 3 Premier League titles, a Champions League crown, a Europa League trophy. The list goes on. He wasn't just a hero for Chelsea. Lampard donned the 3 Lions for England a staggering 106 times, scoring 29 goals. Talk about international duty. He even graced the World Cup stage 3 times and helped England reach the Euro 2004 team of the tournament. But Lampard's story doesn't end on the pitch. After hanging up his boots, he stepped into the manager's shoes, leading Derby County and even returning to his beloved Chelsea, this time as the gaffer. The jury's still out on his managerial career, but one thing's for sure. Frank Lampard is a Chelsea legend, a Premier League great, and a true footballing icon. That's it for this one. If you enjoy hearing Chelsea football icon stories, check out our video on Lampard's former teammate John Terry.